Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being on our program. This is a role model series dash someone I want to applaud for their wonderful, wonderful literary work. Chola Salvation, which we can see in the background here. Estella Gonzalez, she is the author, and it's just a recent book, 2019, I understand.
2021, actually.
2021, thank you. And the book recently came out, and all now she's dedicating her time to focus on the book, to review uh, the critics' responses, the people that read it responses, and hopefully this is not the first of your books that you're going to be publishing. If anything, this is the tip of the iceberg. Thank you for being on the program.
Thank you so much, Armando.
Now, the interesting thing that brought us together was that you have the company Islos. Okay, so Islos means East Los Angeles. And I thought, wait a minute. So, given her background, first of all, she's in Tucson. Then she went to Northwestern near Michigan Lake, and then went to Cornell. I said, wow, what a massive jump. Let's backtrack here. Let's find out how you make these jumps. So apparently you grew up in East Los Angeles, and you went to what high school?
Garfield High School.
Ah, you're a bulldog, if I understand that correctly.
Yes, I am a bulldog. Go Bulldogs. And I went to Griffith Junior High, which is also the
Bulldog. I know where that is too. That's the theater school. How did you make the jump from East Los Angeles, which, as far as I know, which I've lived in that area, has no snow, to going to somewhere like Northwestern and then going to Cornell in New York?
Yeah, no, I think I was very much interested. I loved writing. I thought maybe I might become a journalist, and Northwestern is known for its Medill School of Journalism, a top-notch school. So I thought, yeah, I'll go there. And plus, you know what? As much as I love East LA, I really wanted to get away. I wanted to go as far away as I could. And snow was a novelty for me because, you can go to the mountains, but we hardly ever did to go. We weren't rich enough to go skiing or anything like that. We went to Santa Claus Village once, and I was just enchanted with this idea of snow. So I thought, oh, I'll go, Chicago's perfect, and I just didn't count on the wind. Snow was fine, but there's a reason why they call it the Windy City, right? So at one point, I remember the wind chill was minus 80 because the winds blow down from Canada. Yeah, it was pretty rough. And I had this, wool coat, and it just cut right through it. I don't know. I'm surprised I didn't get frostbite at some point because I would stay late. I would stay like until like 2 a.m. at the library and then come home at night, and it was just cold.
bitter yeah. Cold.
And the school is right by the lake too. So the wind would just blow down. And I would just walk across campus to my dorm. By the time I got to my dorm, my face would be so red. And I was just, frozen. My roommate would be, do you want a shot of schnapps or something? That's what the popular drink was at the time.
It was more out of survival, not out of alcohol.
No, it was like, yeah, warm me up.
Did you have any regrets when you were in college about why you were there, given that you had left East Los Angeles or the Southern California weather?
I really didn't. I think those classes were amazing. I learned so much in those classes. I mean, they were tough. They expected you to really, think, on your feet. The reading was challenging. I was reading, when I got to the upper levels, I was reading these magnificent medieval works of literature because my major was British literature at that point. And I was reading poetry like The Fairy Queen, which was written in like Old English or Renaissance English, sorry, or the Canterbury Tales, or the Tristan and Isolde. I mean, I was into that, right? This was the 80s. So, And at the time, and maybe I would have they didn't have any Latino literature. That wasn't even a thing. They didn't even have Latino organizations on the campus at that time, which was amazing to me because I think I told you this, at that point, Chicago had the second largest Latino population in the country.
Milwaukee too.
Oh, see, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
no. And so I love the classes. They were hard. Writing papers for them was hard, but I really got a lot out of it. I think I really learned to focus at that I learned to focus on my work and what I needed to do, and my work ethic, I think, really improved as the years went along.
So you told your parents, "Oh, mom and dad, I've been accepted to go to Northwestern," and they looked at you and says, "Where's that?" What was their reaction when you told them that you'd been accepted up there and you were going?
Yeah, no, my mom actually, my college counselor, who was very encouraging, arranged for me and my mom to fly over to visit the campus.
Wow.
As soon as I got word or as soon as I let him know that I was accepted, he's like, "You got to go visit," because he went there. He went to school there, and he was the one who told me about Northwestern. He's like, "You got to go visit. It's a beautiful campus, and your mom will love it." And we went and visited. My mom she saw how much I loved it, and she loved it too. She thought it was so beautiful out there. So yeah, I was allowed to go.
Did you ever feel the need or the thought that you might drop out and come back?
No, there was no way. I didn't care what I had to do. I think that's part of my stubborn streak. I just like, no, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. And they're gonna have to kick me out of that school. They want me out. There was no way.
When did you say was your favorite year of the 4 years you were there?
I think my junior year, because I think I finally got the hang of it. I finally was getting better grades on my papers. I remember getting my first C- on a paper. I was devastated. And this was in my freshman year. And I'm like, oh my God, I always got A's, because I was a nerd in high school and I was taking all these advanced placement courses and I always got A's from my teachers. College is a different ball game.
Mm-hmm.
Completely different ball game. So I learned what literary, critical analysis was when, I got to Northwestern, because they expected more out of you, not just a simple, thesis statement, but, they wanted 5-page papers. I was used to like 2-page papers, in high school. And I thought those were so hard, but 5 to 10 pages was, the usual in these courses. So yeah, I think by junior year, I was actually getting A's in my classes.
So when you were getting close to graduation, were you already thinking of maybe going off and working somewhere, maybe at a publishing company, or what was your thoughts?
I wanted to go to Japan. Yes.
It's cold over there too.
Oh no, I knew that. It wasn't going to be as cold as Chicago though.
No.
But I had also been taking Japanese when I was at Northwestern, and I had taken 4 years of it. All through my 4 years, I had taken Japanese, and I'm like, I really want to see what it's like to live out there, because that was one of my goals back then. It's like, I'm going to go and live in Japan. And at the time when I was younger, I had grown up on Japanese anime like Kimba and Speed Racer. Those cartoons were so popular. And then Robotech when I was in high school. And I used to go visit Little Tokyo a lot in LA. And I'm like, I really want to go. I was just enamored. And I think the whole Japanese economic boom was happening back then in the 80s. And there was such a lot of Japanese influence, I felt at the time. And actually, when I was at Northwestern, me and a Japanese American friend, we started the Tomodachi Club, which is, a Japanese friendship club. And we would hold meetings, we would have parties. It was just, anyway, here's this Chicana who wants to go to Japan. And I thought it would be a blast. Why not? And so I signed up for the JET program. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's the Japan exchange teaching program, which is sponsored by the Japanese Ministry of
Oh,
Education. And so, and I don't know if they do this still, but they used to go to college campuses and recruit college graduates. And you didn't have to be fluent in Japanese. They wanted native English speakers to go into their classrooms, because this is what I love about Japanese education is, even though it's, you know, it has its downsides too, but they really pump in a lot of money into their education system. And what they did was they brought native speakers into the classrooms, elementary and junior high and high school classrooms. And they had native speakers speak to their students and teach classes to their students. I'm like, that'll be fun. And they subsidize your housing. I wasn't in Tokyo or Kyoto or any of the major cities. I was in a small farming town, and it was great. I blended right in because some of them mistook me for Japanese, even though I have a big nose, relatively big nose. But from the back, they would see me and they start speaking to me in Japanese, and I'm like, and then I turn around and say, "Wakarimasen deshita," and they would say, "Oh, gaijin desu," you know, "You're a foreigner." I didn't know that, but it was fun. It was. They were so warm. Everybody was so warm and friendly there.
you're the first person I've been able to talk about the topic I'm going to raise right now. Number
Oh,
one, my wife and I love going through Japan. We were there 3.5 weeks. We traveled on our own. We were also on the cruise ship around it. I was amazed how orderly and how beautiful it all was. So I have really pleasant memories. What I read about later, I don't know when, but I read about it, that there's a big Cholo movement in
yes.
Japan.
Yes.
And then I see pictures of the low riders and they're out there with the tattoos and the bandanas. I thought, wow, what is this all about? You're the first person. I said, you started. You're the one to blame. There you go. Yeah, it's like, go through that again, that there's and they love mariachis.
Yes. They love American, Mexican. They love the culture. They
I
really
know.
do.
I know. Because I've ran into mariachi groups here in East LA, and I say, "Oh, what happened to you guys? I hadn't seen you in a while." "Oh, we've been in Japan for 2-3 months." I said, "One more time, I haven't wrapped my head around that." Oh, he says they keep contracting us to go back to Japan. It's really unique. The karaoke part. Oh my God, let's not go there.
Oh, I love karaoke. I love
yeah.
karaoke.
Oh my God, that's almost a religion over there.
Yes, yes. No, yeah, you had to do it. I knew eventually I had to do it. So, you know, I did it. And you know what? I loved it. I'm like, I can't believe it. I really love singing. I'm a terrible singer, but it's just fun getting up there and people are
I
just
think all Japanese are, but they still do it anyway.
yeah.
It's like, oh,
Because
that
that's not
doesn't
the
stop
point.
them.
The point is just to have fun and, you know, be free at the time.
Yeah.
So, oh yeah, no, I really enjoyed a lot of that. I mean, traveling, I don't know which parts of Japan you traveled to. I stuck mostly to the northern side. You know, I went to Hokkaido, I went to Sendai. I was located in Fukushima before the nuclear plant went off. But, you know, it was just, and I felt so safe there because the crime is, you know, down, and I'm like, oh my God, this is so wonderful knowing that I can, you know, go to the bank without fear of being, you know, like robbed or somebody breaking into my house. Although I did have to, as a woman, there are different fears I had to deal with. One of them was you couldn't hang your underwear outside on, you know, because we used clothing lines. They didn't have dryers where I was. And they said, and when the women told me, never hang your underwear out there. And I said, why not? And they're like, because some guy will steal it. And I'm like, what?
Some pervert out there.
I know. And there were those, you know, but you know, that's, I think, unfortunately that comes with being a woman anywhere you are in the world.
Yeah, but you're right. When we traveled through China or even Singapore, $2-3 million homes stick outside with all the clothing hanging outside, being air dried up
Yeah.
in the 16th, 18th, 20th floor. That was bizarre. It's a whole different culture.
Yes.
I love it. Let's talk about your book. So this makes perfect sense. Let's see. You went back east to college. You went to Japan, and you write a story about Chola Salvation. I have no clue what the connection is here. You're gonna have to really work at this one. Now I'm totally confused.
Well, I think Chola Salvation is a collection of short stories. And some of the stories, one of them actually takes place at Northwestern University. And about the difficulty the main character, the protagonist, has with adjusting to the wealth, to the class, to the colorism that occurs in her between herself and her roommate. There's a sense of like, oh, we're both light-skinned minorities, or quote minorities, in this school where it matters to be rich, where it matters to be wealthy. The narrator is from East LA, and she feels compelled to compete with her roommate, her wealthier roommate, who's Indian American. And that, that affects her mental health. Just, it's hard enough trying to deal with, the academic side, but then there's also this cultural side with that I think students of color have to contend with when they go to an elite school, right? Where it's mainly, it's mainly white, and there's a lot of wealth that you've never seen before. And and so the narrator is just, she feels pressured. And then when she does return back to her home in East LA, there's another sense of pressure, like this gender pressure for her mom, from her parents, especially her mother, who is shocked to find out that she's using tampons instead of, pads, because, oh my God, a good Mexican girl never uses those. Those are only for married women. and the daughter's like, wait a minute, why is this such a big deal? Why, and she's trying to still fit the mold for her parents and still fit another mold at school. And that it's hard for her mentally. There's a lot of pressure for her. So I think, again, that's one of my experiences that I try to translate into a fictional story, so that when somebody does read it, they can understand. It's like, oh my God, there's so much pressure, not just because you're poor, but also because you're a woman, you have darker skin, you come from a traditional Mexican family. There's a lot going on.
I'm just sort of looking at it from a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Does life get easier for a Latina if she doesn't go to school and she never sees all this new ways of living? If she just stays within the standard package, if you will, stays at home, lives at home?
No, I mean, depends on who you are. If you're a Latina um, who is driven, um, being complacent is never going to be satisfying. If you're not, it never is going to make you happy. There's not going to be any meaning in your life. I won't spoil the ending of the
No,
story,
no, no, please.
but let's just say that this character finds a way, and there's some satisfaction. I mean, I found satisfaction in getting through these hard things. And it's, what, college is a reflection, at least in my experience, of the bigger world too. Because there are some people who never leave East LA because it's just more comfortable, right? They know what the roles are, they know what they need to do. It doesn't mean they're any happier, but I guess it's less scary than going out into this wider world where, yeah, you're going to face a lot of, pressures, and it's not going to be pleasant, but welcome to life, unless you're independently wealthy and you can shelter yourself from everything. Or maybe even not that.
It's important. I think you're touching a very important issue here, that in 2020 and the future, it's global.
Mm-hmm.
Business is global, mindset is global, our media is global. how can one read the paper if you don't know all the different places in the world? Because the paper is divided between what's happening in Israel, what's happening in Africa, what's happening, blah, blah, blah. And not to know where these places are, not to have any attention to that is like, man, you're missing the whole package.
Yeah.
And now, you know, you could be working for a company that may be in Singapore or could be in Buenos Aires. You're no longer working just from your own backyard. And if you don't have some exposure to that, now and into the future, I can see how the world could become far more difficult. No matter who you are, male, female, Latinos or not. It's just not to know, not to have that exposure, and then not to seek it. I mean, it's just digging a hole for yourself.
Yeah. No, I mean, you can't hide from the world. I mean, you can try, but the world will find you. And it's not going to be pleasant. I mean, but when you do, I mean, it's not going to be, if you can deal with these pressures in your own way and find a way to maintain your integrity while you're still, you know, in this world or outside, out in a different world, then your life will have more meaning. I mean, I think writing this book has also, you know, just writing the book, I think is an act of activism, right? Just showing, you know, the different complexities of East Los Angeles and its denizens and what they can experience. I mean, obviously it's fiction, but it's a different way of viewing, I think, East LA and the people of East LA and how we deal with the world around us.
I was reading the background on your book, and it was saying that it's a fictional writing uh, working on analyzing the working class men and women, self-hatred, economic survival, and patriarchal suppression. The self-hate caught my attention. Could you address that, what you meant by that?
Oh yeah, no, I mean, maybe it's more like self-loathing. Because I think, you know, back in the 80s, being from East LA wasn't a point of pride for me. It wasn't like you know, when people would ask me where I was from, I would say I'm from LA. And most people would be fine with that. But then I remember one time somebody asked, like, well, what part of LA are you from? And I said, East LA. And then the guy said, oh, were you in a gang? And I said, oh yeah, here, let me show you something. And right here on my elbow, I don't know if you can see it. This is the remnants of a scar. And I said, see this? That's a bullet grazed me when I was in a fight. And of course he believed me because, you know, a white guy. And he was from, I think he was from a farm in Illinois or something. And then later on, I told him, no, I'm not in the gang. This is from I fell off my bicycle when I was bicycling to ELAC, East LA Community College. But those were the kinds of questions I would always get once I revealed that I was from East LA. And that was also the time that Cheech Marin's movie, Born in East LA, had come out. And so, of course, sometimes I get, you know, these students who would just sing Born in East LA, Estella. And it irritated me, you know, at that time. I find it funny now, but it's like, yeah, I was born in East LA. I was born in White Memorial Hospital, and I grew up, you know, but the image that Hollywood had painted of East LA, you know, was this gang infested. There's criminals, the girls all get pregnant when they're young. They, you know, I remember I had one guy said, you're Mexican? Mexicans don't go to school or don't go to college. And I'm like, but I'm here. I'm here. I'm in college, you know? So what do you think of that? But yeah, it wasn't a point of pride back then. It is now.
I was raised in Tijuana. My father was a US citizen who worked in the military complex. But I still lived in Tijuana because my mother worked for the federal court system, and she could not, her job required that she live in Mexico. our daughter, we took her back because, to see my parents. And my daughter sort of reflected. I think she must have been 10. She asked a question which sort of opened it up to that I told her. I said, people say Mexicans do not go to college. I said, Mexico has presidents, lawyers, doctors, has the entire
Writers.
professional writers. I said, these people are college graduates in Mexico. I said, maybe in the US, they don't think they have relatives that went. I said, but we all have Mexican professionals. They exist. It's not like they're going to exist. You just don't know that unless you come to Mexico and realize that. And that's when he made a major change. And it wasn't like a new concept. I said, in the US, they think it's a new concept. I said, my mom went to college, so, we come from people that have already been in college. It's not like we're the first ones. I said, no one, I think, is the first ones. They just don't know who already went.
Yes.
Back in Mexico. I said, we have engineers, we have everything. They run the country.
Right.
It just blew her away. And then from there on, she never thought that again, where people said, well, Mexicans go to college. She says, yeah, there's a whole country of them. It's not just East LA. Yeah, there's a lot of them. Just a lot of them here are workers.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's just a personal story that you triggered that I thought was very powerful. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah. No, and I think that, and I think also being a dark-skinned Mexican too. I mean, granted, some are darker, but I think I remember running into a Mexican, like she's a Mexican national. She was going to Northwestern too, but she was very light-skinned also. But nobody ever questioned her identity, as far as I remember. No, maybe they did, but I was always constantly questioned as to my identity as an American. Because whenever somebody would ask, because again, I would get that question, what are you? I'm like, I'm an American. Oh no, really, what are you? I say, I'm Mexican American. And then they'd be like, you don't look Mexican. Or, oh yeah, now I could, it was just this identity questioning all the time. And I think that also got to me too. I started questioning my own identity. It's like, what, do I really belong here? Do I, you get that imposter syndrome. Like, do I deserve to be here?
Mm.
And they would ask me, well, what were your SAT scores? And I would tell them, I go, I got a 1200. So, and they'd be like, oh, okay, all right. Well, I had to keep showing my papers all the time when I was in college. Not so much when I was in grad school, but when I was an undergrad in the 80s, that was difficult.
When I was a freshman in college, and I was in a very good college in the terms that they were very taking in students. They were not prejudicial that I could sense in any way, shape, or form, even today. But it was still in the Southern California area. And I remember the professor was asking, well, what's your background? Armando, where'd you come from? I said, East Los Angeles. I went to a Catholic school there. He says, what do your parents do? I said, oh, my father works in nuclear aircraft, nuclear delivery systems in aircraft. And he sat there, he says, you're from East LA? And I said, yeah, I'm from there. He said, I never heard something like that. I said, well, here I am.
Yeah.
No, we don't all come from the farm.
Now
We're not all laborers. We're not
Yeah.
all, there's backgrounds in people,
Yeah.
And the guy just freaked out. He actually took me aside later on and started asking me questions about, he wanted to know more from me. But the idea is that people get shocked that, no, we're not all laborers just in simple, simple jobs. We have backgrounds of all kinds. And so it's fascinating. So I really connect with you. And I think I want to share that part of you with people, that you have to have a strong base of yourself, that I am me. And that you're going to have to get past these people. And nothing is permanent with these people. They're ignorance. But we have to be patient, that if they're willing to learn and ask, we're willing to share and find out that it isn't what you thought it was.
Yeah.
So
no,
I applaud that. So is there another book coming in the near future, or?
I'm working on a novel, so I'm trying to get that ready, hopefully by the fall. I have to get it finished first, and then I can submit it to the publisher and see what they think. But I'm trying to get that, and I'm also trying to get a book of poetry, hopefully, maybe off the ground too.
I saw your writing is I'm a writer, sometimes a poet.
Oh yeah.
I love that one. Unfortunately, we're coming to the end of the show. This has been
Oh,
so much fun. Uh, I'd like to ask you two things. One,
sure.
number one, what would be your advice to persons who have this inclination or this sense that they want to be writers, but they say, it's not something I should do? And then your closing statements. So,
Oh no, I think you should do it because the urge to be a writer, I've been wanting to write since I was young. Ever since I picked up books, I was a voracious reader. So that's my first piece of advice. Read as much as you can. I know it's harder in these days and ages. I don't know. Maybe you're more comfortable with reading on your phone or from your Kindle, but read, and read the writers you love, if you can. And if you want to find a writer you love, just look at what they're writing about. Look at, the beauty of these COVID times, if there is any beauty, is that there are so many like Zoom presentations by authors. So many. I've been trying to I can't keep up with all of them. Otherwise, I'd be on Zoom for like, 8 hours a day. But there are so many writers now. And I'm like, that is so beautiful. I have so many books that I have yet to read. I'm trying to get through them, but read. Also, keep a journal. I journal every day, at least 3 pages. And you write about whatever you want, what's bothering you, or what you want to write about. Some people keep 2 journals, one that's personal and one that's for their writing. I just do one. But write with your hand. Don't type it out. For some reason, and I think studies have shown that your brain gets more stimulated when it feels the page and it feels the pen cradling in between your fingers. Yes, there you go. Yeah, I have my journals right here. This one.
I write everything.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and maybe it's because I'm a Gen Xer or something, but I loved computers, and word processing really started to take off in the 80s. That's when I let go of my precious typewriter when the Macintoshes came. But I think the feel of the paper, it still does something for me. And when I would teach, I would tell my students, you got to take notes, do it with your pen and your paper, because you'll remember more. You're not going to remember everything I've said. I know you guys are younger than I am, you have better memory, but you're not going to. So yeah, write and read, take classes if you can, take creative writing classes. Those have been so beneficial for me too. Create a writing group. I belong to at one point I belonged to like 4 writing groups, and you can do them online now. And I have a writing group that meets every week for 2 hours, and somebody does a prompt and we just write. It doesn't matter what you write. It's not, we know it's a first draft. We're not going to be like, well, you should do this. Just write, and we just support each other. It's like, oh, that was a good line, or that's a great character, something positive. So yeah, and yeah, that's my recommendation. And contact favorite authors too. If you find a favorite author, most authors will respond to you and say, hey, hi, they'll make a connection with you.
You bring up an excellent point. How can people connect with you?
Okay. Well, you can contact me via my website, www.eastloswriter.com. And, there's a contact form on there. Contact me. No.
Excellent. Excellent.
I'm also on Instagram at Chola Salvation. So
Chola Salvation for your book.
Mm-hmm.
Comments on anything we've talked about?
I think we touched on a lot of powerful things. I thank you, Armando. I mean, I really, some of them are painful, but I think some of them are necessary to talk about. Because I think it still happens, like your daughter, you're telling me your daughter, hearing that Mexicans don't go to college. It's like the ignorance is still there. And again, we have no excuse anymore. We have, the Google, we have the world at our hands, and we can research more about other cultures and other countries and other communities within our own country. We can find out more. So there's no excuse for that. So
Be
yeah.
thick skin is what I learned from you, you know, and you expose
And have a
yourself.
sense of humor. Have a sense of
Ah,
humor.
yes, 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 absolutely. And what I sort of picked up from you is also be proud of what you have, whether it may be a lot or a little, but be proud of it because that makes us unique on this planet.
Yes.
And what we take for granted for ourselves becomes a point of interest to other people as well, i.e., the Japanese and the whole idea of them having a Cholo culture.
Yeah, I
That
think
is,
that's fantastic.
yeah, yeah, that's really big. I want to thank you very much. I wish you continuous success on your book, Chola Salvation. I'm real glad that there's a poster back there. People can refer to it. And I want to emphasize what you said. You're very, very welcoming. You want people to talk to you. And I'm very hopeful. This is a personal thought to myself. Wouldn't it be wonderful if the classes, the literature classes in Garfield or in Los Angeles could do a Zoom interview with you
I would love
next
it.
semester? And hopefully we'll all be back in the classroom again.
I would
And
I would go there. Actually, my parents live down the street from Garfield. So
well, even if you can't, I mean, but
yeah.
still, we have the technology to be able
Yes,
to talk to
yes.
the classes and to have you sort of be the role model there, whether you can be there physically or not, I
Mm.
think would be outstanding. So, un aplauso to you.
Oh,
Continue
thank
your
you.
success, and I look forward to having you on future shows.
Oh, thank you so much, hermano. Un aplauso para ti también. Thank
Gracias,
you
muy
so
amable.
much. Thank you. All right.
Okay, let me